Hello, I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. Today's topic is going to be part two, how the victim is being punished for the abuse that is happening to them. It happens more frequently than we realize. So, part two, there's going to be a big boom. I honestly have to say that this is going to be the hardest part that I'm coming out about. One of the hardest parts. It was very hard for me to come out about my relationship with Mickey because he was the first person that I felt the feeling of love and actually loved, but ended up causing me harm in the worst ways, as I had finally admitted to. He ruined my first miracle, which was escaping my miserable life and having a safe place in my own home that I could achieve my biggest goal in life, which is my dream of the job, which is still going very well. And I am achieving that. So, coming out, I'm going to go ahead and start with the beginning. I had come to my realization now is that the most toxic relationship I had while living here after I escaped my miserable life was actually with somebody I still don't want to have to admit, but it was actually a friendship with a female. It wasn't my intimate partnership. And actually this abuse was going on for shortly after I escaped my first miserable life. I now realize that's why I haven't been able to heal completely and actually achieve moving on from the other traumas that happened, because that person happened to be a part of the other traumas that happened to me that I had discussed in part one. Okay, so we're going to be discussing this friendship. I really don't like to name any names, but this female friend was the first friend I met here. They were like what I seen as the sister I wished I had. I actually met this same person where I had met Mickey, and it felt like a connection right away, the same way I felt about Mickey, and it was just a friendship. So after we met, I had seen this person, this friend, as somebody I could look up to and I admired, and I also looked to for advice based upon starting my new life and being able to accomplish what I had hoped to achieve. And I have to say that so far I've been writing about it based upon a friend's suggestion of who, what, when, and where, and why. And that's what I'm still working on, which I'll be hopefully going over in another part. But we'll stick to the details of what happened within this relationship with this person. So, after I moved here, I had done a favor for one of the tenants. I had babysat her cat, and after I was done with that, she had started rumors about me, telling all the tenants that I had abused her cat. Well, her cat had fleas. That's why I had red marks around. Now, actually, another tenant had admitted to me that she had babysat this cat for this woman, and he had fleas. And this woman didn't even let her know that. Who she actually has cats herself, which is pretty, disgusting. As I don't know how you put that. I can't even say that's really disgusting that you give somebody your cat with fleas, knowing that this person has cats of their own. Anyways, back to the topic. This person had actually stalked and harassed me first when I moved here. She would see me out there in the hallways and come follow me and start yelling out to me, call me, psychopath or whatever. She would actually go to the main office complaining about me, coming up with a lot of bullcrap. So yes, actually the trouble started right from the beginning. So how did this one friend handle this? Well, while I was being abused by this one tenant who she actually would surround herself with, there was one time, I'll lay one of the incidents, is that this person had come out to harass me and yell at me. But she actually did recently too. And this is how many months after that incident? Anyways, back to this topic. Since this happened at least twice with this other so-called friend now I see as ex, was sitting there while this person was degrading me and yelling at me, yet she scolded that friend, now ex-friend, scolded me for it happening. And actually this person had ended our friendship due to these things happening to me by this one person. This person had continued this pattern throughout all the traumas that happened to me. I had mentioned, not in detail in the video based upon my sexual assault here, is that the hardest part was that many friends had abandoned me after it happened to me, which is actually blaming the victim for that rape happening to them. And that's exactly what this now ex-friend had done to me themselves. I had told everybody that that's one thing I could never forgive that person for. So back to what I was discussing, which was the woman with the cat that I babysat. So that was just one incident. Also, certain other friends of hers, one of them was being pretty cruel to me and yelled at me in front of her. They also went along with the gossip about me and the lies, and they were treating me in ill ways in front of this now ex-friend. I had brought that up with this friend, and they yelled at me and turned it on me as though I'm the bad person. They've never defended me in front of others, even though that I didn't deserve to be treated like that, and it was wrong. What I just discussed with another person who's a therapist told me that narcissists don't see what they're doing. I honestly don't believe that. I believe that people know right from wrong and they make a choice. But she had stated that they don't want to admit to their wrongs. I agree with that. They don't want to admit it. They don't want to apologize. So, how else did she abuse me, this friend? She would send me text messages. This is manipulation, is what somebody told me, in a form of power and control. After not even an argument, no argument, we were having a great time, say the day before, and that was our last conversation. The very next morning, I would wake up to a text message of her stating that she needs a break from me. Wow, you think of this as just an intimate partnership, but no, this was a friend that has been doing this to me for several months. I actually sadly looked back and I realized that she had done this on a monthly basis. And it is a form of abuse, just cutting off a relationship. And her reasons were, is for the abuse that was happening to me was too stressful for her. Wow. As I've been told by others, is that's not a friend, and it should be equal. Although there are certain people I have to say that I disagree with, even in the mental health field. I think this is a huge problem for victims, is when they make excuses for an abuser's choices of behaviors, I should say, that they make to do upon others that don't deserve it. They have stated to me that, well, maybe your traumas were triggering her traumas. All I says, I was like, whoa. I stopped them right then and there. As I've stated in my videos, is I do not tolerate excuses for behaviors that somebody chose that harms another person. I told them that straight up. This was my therapist that I'm now getting therapy with. And she agreed with me. She said, you're right. That's the problem. Because making excuses is just giving that victim another reason that they should continue that relationship. Well, honestly, it's shameful enough to me that I have to admit that I should have ended this relationship a long time ago. Most people would think, why didn't you? And as I said, this was the most complicated relationship because it was the hardest to end, even over the person I first fell in love with and felt the feeling of love with. So, after that, that was the incident of abuse with the cat. And also I had mentioned that other people that she knows that she's friends with had treated me in ill ways that she just watched happen and also blamed me for. and actually have that in text, and also made me out like I was a bad person and not them. Another form of abuse is putting it onto the victim. It's also a form of power and control and gaslighting. They want the victim to feel like they're the ones that are bad. They're the ones that are crazy. They're the ones that are mental. Ooh, Mickey used that in his statements to the police after sexually assaulting me, that we broke up because I'm mental. Well, in my writings, it is proven to be that he's the one that's mental, not me. So anyways, that's another form of abuse, is gaslighting and turning it on to the victim as though they're the bad ones. I admit that I fell for it with this person, more so over Mickey. Again, most people would think that intimate partnerships, that we don't see this and that would happen more often in that type of relationship, but actually it happened the most within this friendship, which ended up being, like I said, the most toxic out of all of them and all of the relationships I've had here, which is actually the hardest thing for me to admit. Although I am extremely proud, I just want to stop there. I'm extremely proud and very happy now that I've come to this realization, because I haven't felt this good for a very long time. I felt extremely free. It was the same freeing feeling I felt after I finally got here and escaped my first miserable life. So let's just put that out there now, that things are going to be great and I'm doing very well. Even though I'm still going to do the therapeutic part of going through all the feelings and healing processes and grievances. Now, let's go on to the next thing. I had met Mickey, and I had stated that I had just gone through a trauma. The trauma was online bullying with people that I was friends with for years online. Actually, this friend was a part of that situation where it got really bad, and they were, I have to admit, abusive towards me. They also ended the friendship with me, stating that the problems I'm having with these friends is stressing them out and that they don't want to help me. Well, that's again where excuses came in, is that, well, maybe it's triggering their traumas or their feelings. No. Finally, I've been hearing from others in the mental health field is that it should be equal in a friendship, and that's not a friend. If they expect you to be there for them and you wouldn't take off when they're having hard times, they should do the same for you. What kind of friend does that? It's okay for them to talk to you about your problems, but if you even say anything about any problems you're having, you're a bad person. No, that's part of abuse too. That's part using that person as well, as one pointed out. That's using me only when it's convenient for them. It happens with even emotions, which is why I see it as actually, and was told that it's emotional abuse that this person had done. And they also agreed that actually emotional abuse can actually be more harmful than physical. So, as I stated in part one, is that most people were probably focused on the sexual assault as being the worst thing, but actually it was the emotional abuse that had held me back the most. So, the online incident, that was the first thing. I ended up getting social anxiety. And I realized that was due to how certain people responded, including this one now ex-friend. And it caused me to feel helpless because I felt like I was the bad person. I was causing them stress for me having stress. Again, being blamed for the abuse that happened to me. It's not my fault that these people chose to do these behaviors to me. So why is it that this person treated me that way? That's a form of abuse and power and control over the relationship. Next was when I met Mickey. Now, what's funny is that this person had actually always insulted and criticized Mickey for his behaviors that were ill and harmed me, but they actually themselves had repeated those same types of behaviors towards me. Honestly, I have to say is that Mickey did not emotionally abuse me as much or as frequently as this now ex-friend. Actually, this now ex-friend emotionally and verbally abused me most out of every single relationship I've had since I've been here. So anyways, I met Mickey and things were great for a few months until certain people got involved that are gang members. And that's when the sexual assault happened. And this now ex-friend, she's actually one of them that actually abandoned me after. I had actually went to her first and came out to her first. And she actually abandoned our friendship. It was actually another person that I wasn't very close friends to, that right before her, she actually had come up to me and told me that knowing what happened to me, she was overwhelmed with stress and that she couldn't talk to me or associate with me for a while. I realized that I had at least 5 different people that claimed to be my friends that abandoned me after that incident happened, and it was actually the worst part after I was raped. And even now, I have to say that certain things, most of the things that happened that hurt me the most is much worse than the sexual assault. And that's still very true now. So, after I was sexually assaulted, I was abandoned again. Now, most people relate the breakup text and the abuse that way by intimate partnership, but that's the main tool that this now ex-friend had mainly used on me as their main plot of abuse, as for the cycle of abuse, where they did the main plot, which would be, as I said, is that they would act like everything's all great and la da da, and then all of a sudden send me a text stating, well, I need a break from our friendship, blah blah blah. And if I defended myself, the gaslighting part, make the other person like they're crazy, or also insult them and say that they're the abuser or they're the bully, that's exactly how she would respond when I defended myself. And I realized that I actually defended myself many months ago, and I seen this happening and that it was bad, but I didn't end the relationship. Conditioned normalized victimization syndrome, again, that doesn't mean that we don't see wrong being done, and that's not why we choose to stay in those relationships. I chose to stay because I honestly wanted what I seen as such a great connection, and it was very sentimental and special to me. That's why I kept on giving it chances. And I do admit that's a problem within myself that I need to change. I give way too many chances. And it's very hard, especially when it comes to somebody that's sentimental to you. I do get rid of most people now, but I have to admit that this was the one hardest one, that my personal boundaries that actually improved a lot, as I had stated, and they have, based on other relationships I've had. But with this one, it was actually the most complicated and hardest to stand by those personal boundaries. Although I am very proud because this time it is over. Enough is enough. And this recently happened, so I'm very proud about that. So I just want to point that out right now, that it is over. I am done with that person. I'm done with the abuse. That's not a friend. So after the incident with Mickey, I was stalked and harassed by more than 3 people. And this person, they knew about it, but they would actually say hello to certain people and act like nothing, even to the point where it was humiliating me. And they knew it. It was obvious. An example would be with Mickey. What's funny about that, which isn't really funny, it shows that they're hypocritical, is that after he had sexually assaulted me, this same now ex-friend had told me that they didn't want to be around a rapist, meaning they wouldn't come up to my apartment if they knew he was up here trying to hurt me, if that's how it turned out to be. That's right. They didn't want to be around a rapist because they're just too good for that, even for a friend to be there to protect them. But they would say hello to this person or even talk to them if they seen them outside. And this person would actually say hello to this now ex-friend, knowing that I would see them doing so, and that was a attempt to humiliate me and was very rude, as everybody else who knew about this happening, because he did it several times, he would say hello to that person and act like I wasn't even there. And she would go ahead and say hello. So that shows that they're not a friend either. Knowing what this person is doing and has done to me, and still communicates with them. She also had stayed in friendships with people that were involved with trying to get me falsely evicted, and were associating with the people that were the main culprits or abusers in that situation to try to get me falsely evicted. So now let's go to the false eviction trauma. With the false eviction, this now ex-friend knew that these were lies. I had asked this now ex-friend if they would even write to the management, the landlords here, privately, to let them know that I'm not doing any of these things that these people were lying about, knowing how much it harmed me. Just the fear, because I did get an eviction warning due to Mickey's now girlfriend, her sister, and their friend were the main people involved in that and putting out the lies. Yeah. Double humiliation there, because he was cheating on me when we were trying to get back together, while trying to get talking to his, at the time, ex-girlfriend, being back with her, left me. And then that person, he ends up being in a relationship after she had tried to get me evicted from my home. So that is the one thing I can never forgive him for. The one thing I can never forgive my now ex-friend is that she abandoned me after these traumas happened and didn't even care. So the stalking and harassing, how did she handle that? What showed that she was not really a friend and is actually abusive? Well, what showed she's not a friend is I was being stalked and harassed by more than 3 people. And at one point I was too afraid to come out of my apartment. Now, if a person cared about you, wouldn't they be concerned, like, I wonder where Shelley's been? Most people here know that I go outside, and I like to be outside and I walk around. Well, guess what? I wasn't outside, and I tried to stay in my apartment, and I stayed away from everybody for over a week. Not one single phone call, nobody stopped by, and guess what? These people live in the same apartment complex as me, including that now ex-friend. Right there was proof to me that they're not really my friend. They really never cared. That's proof right there, evidence. So, with the eviction letter warning, her excuse for that was she was afraid of the gangs here, that they would attack her, that the landlord would actually let one of the gang members know that she had written a letter to try to defend me. That was just an excuse. So, with the stalking and harassing, that was another evidence right there, is that she didn't do nothing, and she actually would even associate with people that were close to this person who had been stalking and harassing me and had physically assaulted me. So I was also physically assaulted, and actually this now ex-friend is the person I had gone to. And no, I had, in the part 1, I had stated that I was sexually assaulted on August 15th, and I was physically assaulted on August 21st. But I was being stalked and harassed even before that. So, the spitting incident, well, I told this same person, and they know that this person who has stalked and harassed other women here has known about this even from other women. And I asked her to simply, if she's ever questioned by the law, is to just state what she knows. Her response was, well, I wasn't a witness. Well, as a friend, you would state what you do know and do that for the friend if you really cared about them. You would think that would be the automatic response, but just like with, right from the beginning, after the bullying incident online with those friends, actually this ex-friend didn't care, didn't want to hear my problems. And like the therapist said, that's not a friend. They expect you to be there to listen to them, but they couldn't care less. It's on their terms if you share yours. Or another abuse tactic is when you share your feelings with them and they use those things that happened to you as a form of abuse, which is actually how she ended this one. It's where I was cut. She actually called me the abuser and bully just out of the blue because I defended myself when she was sending me one of those abusive texts of breaking up our friendship for no reason. And she said, "You're an abuser and a bully." Wow. Right there, an abuser. Right after abusing you, they'll tell you that you're the abuser. Wow. Very obvious and common tactics that abusers use, but I can spot it out. So, I had just gone over pretty much in detail as much as I could because, as you can see, there's been a lot of things that happened to me here while I lived in this apartment complex. And my realization was not just those people that committed the traumas that most people would see as the worst, such as the rape or the physical assault, is what most people would focus on, but it was actually the eviction warning based upon the person I first fell in love with and him humiliating me at this apartment complex by being in an intimate partnership with this person who was the main abuser and culprit as for trying to get me evicted from what I seen as my first miracle, which was being in this apartment. I did love this apartment, but now I have finally come to where I'm accepting that I do need to move out of here in order to fully heal and grow in positive ways. So I'm very proud about that I've come to that, and I am currently looking for a new place to live. And I do have agencies who are helping me achieve that. So part 2 was coming out about something I have been hiding from myself, as I've talked about in other videos, is I kept stuffing everything that this now ex-friend had done as though it didn't happen. And that's exactly how they handled it. Instead of apologizing for the harm that they did to me, they would just act like nothing happened and think that we could just go back. But this time I'm proud because that's it. It's over. Enough is enough. And I'm so proud of myself, and I actually feel super because I finally came to that point, and now I can actually grow and heal in a much more quicker way, hopefully, but in a much better way where I'm not so stressed. I actually have anxiety disorder, and my anxiety symptoms have lessened in the past couple of days since ending that. So that's it for part 2. And again, I'm very proud and very happy as to where I came to. Is very hard, but I plan to keep growing in more positive ways. So, ending. The abuse that happened to me that I was punished for. That's right. Which includes the now ex-friend who punished me for the traumas that happened to me that I had no control over by doing abuse tactics such as blaming me, putting it back on me as insults as though I'm an abuser or bully, which it was the gangs that were abusers and bullying me, including that person who is now my ex-friend. That was actually a part of the abuse that happened to me and why I was hindered from healing, but not anymore. So, ending part 2. I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. See you next time.